Right, so hello, welcome back to the channel. How good are Newcastle? What they did last night, it was unbelievable. Because not only did they beat PSG and Kylian Mbappe, they absolutely annihilated them door to door. And they made it look so easy. And if you're new around here and want to give a quick subscribe to the channel and share the video around, that would be greatly appreciated as we're trying to hit 250 subs as soon as possible. Every little helps with that. Let's get back into it. Now, I saw a quote from Keegan that resurfaced online. It said, "Trust me, one day you will get your club back and it will be everything you wanted." Now, I'm not going to sit here and call him a liar, but he's a liar because it's not everything they wanted. It's much, much more than that. Because the Geordies are in dreamland at the minute. They're in the Champions League, but they're competing in the Champions League as well. Albeit, yes, we're 2 games into the group stage, but they've got by far the toughest group, and they're sitting pretty at the top, undefeated, not losing at the San Siro, having a 0-0 draw, and then beating PSG 4-1 at St James's Park, which is a fortress as well. Now, I did a video a few months back saying that Newcastle will win the Champions League, and I didn't mean for it to be this Champions League, but I was saying the steps that they can take to go on to eventually win a Champions League, as I do genuinely think that one day in the future, whether that's in 5 years, 10 years, they will get a Champions League trophy. But at the same time, I just remember one comment on there saying, "Oh, it's clickbait, that's so delusional, it'll never happen, you need luck in the knockout stages," and so forth, so forth. Well, they've been unlucky in the fact that the group stage is very difficult, and they seem to be coping alright. But let's say how they beat PSG. Well, PSG, they're the Qatari oil money against the Saudi money of Newcastle, and that's kind of what it was a bit dubbed to be. But at the same time, PSG, the main problem always has been, buys superstars, doesn't buy players to work well in a team. They've not built a team around Kylian Mbappe, which they should have done about 3 or 4 years ago. Now he's nearly 25, and what's he actually achieved there? Because their team's so poorly put together. And I said ages ago that I think Kylian Mbappe should stay at PSG, because I think one Champions League trophy with PSG means more to him than winning 7 or 8 with Real Madrid, because that's his hometown club. That's why it's a bit different than when Neymar went, and obviously Messi went for different reasons, but it means more to him. But if this is how they're going to keep on trying to build up everything, whether it's his fault or not, he just needs to get out of there, because he's not helping himself. But let's get back on to talking about Newcastle, because they're the story here, not PSG and Mbappe. Whilst Newcastle have brilliant flair players, talisman up front and leaders at the back, they are a team. Like, they would run through a wall for one another. It's brilliant to watch. And what epitomises this Newcastle team is, I remember that clip from a year or so ago, and it was Anthony Gordon when he was at Everton squaring up with Fabian Schär, and then about 50 million Newcastle players all come along backing up Fabian Schär, and they were all looking like, yeah, you're not going to touch him whatsoever. And now obviously Anthony Gordon's integrated into the squad, and they would do the same for him. But it's just brilliant and refreshing to see a team actually work as a team and not just play for individual stats or anything like that. They don't care. They just want to win, play good football, and make sure that the fans are happy. That's what it's about at the end of the day. And make no mistake about it, this is the house that Eddie Howe built, because Eddie Howe, what a job he's done. It's genuinely unbelievable. Taking over when they were 19th in the league, getting them into the Champions League, getting them to a cup final, and now this, their first win in over 20 years at St James's Park in the Champions League. This is all him. He has built this team. He has built the likability of this team. He's built the team spirit. He's built the quality. And he's built the winning mentality here. But let's talk about someone who I don't think is going to get anywhere near the amount of plaudits that he does. Jamal Lascelles, captain in the Championship, captain in the Champions League. Sven Botman injured. Who steps in? Jamal Lascelles. And if you said about 2-3 years ago, Jamal Lascelles is going to keep a clean sheet against Man City, and then a few days later against PSG in the Champions League, Not one person, even the most delusional Geordie fan, not one person would have believed you. But him and Paul Dummett kept a clean sheet midweek against Man City, and then he's done it again against PSG. It's unbelievable. He's made over 200 appearances, £4 million, absolute bargain. He could have sulked. He could have said, well, I'm not playing as much, I want to leave. He has been a true leader of this group. Trippier has given him the captain's armband whenever he's played, which shows immense maturity and the leadership that he's got as well for the squad. And it's just brilliant to see. He could have easily forced away a move. He could have easily said, well, I don't want to play, whatever. But he's not done it. And he's been brilliant. And the exact same applies to one of the goal scorers, Sean Longstaff, as well, who said that 3 years ago, he could have even seen himself getting shipped off after the takeover happened. But at the same time, he is the midfield engine in there. They play so much better with him than without him. And then you also have the likes of Dan Burn, who when the takeover happened, he said, well, I'm probably not going to get my chance at Newcastle anymore. Immense at left back. I was saying Tierney should replace him, and Tierney obviously is out injured at the minute, and I do think he is that bit better, but you can't buy passion. And what Dan Burn puts in for Newcastle at left back, you can't match it. And there are lots of teams, and bands of teams that blame injuries for why they're not doing well. The likes of Man United, Chelsea, they're all blaming injuries. And yes, whilst you have the injuries, Newcastle have injuries as well. Botman's out injured, Willock's out injured, Wilson was injured, Harvey Barnes was injured, Joelinton's been injured, so how'd they go and beat PSG then? Must have just been luck. Not a chance. Because you could argue that all those 5 guys would start for Newcastle. I mean, they do rotate and they've got that quality in midfield and attack, so who knows here and there. Botman's a definite starter. Willock was immense last year and then it's just been unfortunate to be injured. Wilson gets goals. He gets more goals than Isaac somehow. Harvey Barnes looked great when he came in, and Joelinton transformed since he went into midfield and even plays on the left wing. So yeah, you've got 5 starters there, all out injured. No excuses from Newcastle. They went and did the business. And I've seen some people saying, well, it's gone up to Newcastle, they're having a bad season. No, they're not. I mean, they've lost 3 games in the league, and one was against Brighton away, and Brighton have been brilliant other than that Aston Villa game. Then you've got Man City away, no shame there whatsoever. The only game where they lost, where they really shouldn't have lost, was that Liverpool game, where they were down to 10 men. Liverpool, that is, and it was just a wee freak game, because the last few games they beat Brentford 1-0, then they drew at the San Siro 0-0, they beat Sheffield United 8-0, they beat Man City 1-0, and then they went and beat Burnley 2-0, so that 4-1 game against PSG, that's the first time they've conceded in ages as well, and it was only 1 goal. And I've watched the game with smiles on my face every time they scored. It was just brilliant. The Geordies have an infection about them, and I've said it before and I'll say it constantly, because they are the best fans in the league. Their home support is brilliant, their away support is fantastic, and they are just the biggest passionate fans in the Premier League. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. And it's either between this PSG game or the game all those years ago against Barcelona in the Champions League, which ranks as probably their best in their history, other than obviously the odd cup wins and that. But these games are special, and the Geordie fans make these night specials. So how far will they go in the tournament? Who knows, because it's still so early on. If they can get out of the groups, that's remarkable. And it gets a bit easier for them, I think, as well, because some of the other groups are very weak, so they could even get a favourable tie if they can get through. So we'll wait and see, but maybe round of 16 quarter-final potentially. But overall for Newcastle, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to see what they do in the Premier League. How far can they push the likes of Arsenal and Man City at the top of the table? Can they go and win an FA Cup? How far can they go in the League Cup? All these competitions will stack up, they'll get more injuries, but how will they come back from it with that team spirit that I was going on about earlier? In the Champions League, how will they do if they fall to the Europa League? Can they push on and get to a semi-final, a final in there? And who will they bring in as well in January and next summer. It's such an exciting time to watch Newcastle and be a Newcastle fan, unless, of course, you live in Sunderland, at which point you're probably hating every minute of this. So yeah, Newcastle, they're amazing. Let me know what you guys think about Newcastle in the comments below. How excited are you to see them progress further? Please let me know what you thought about the video as well below, and if you'd like to like, share and subscribe, that would really help the channel a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.